And if it's against their will to be in that facility, it's called as false imprisonment. The client retains full civil rights, which have kind of every patient have. So the other one is the right to confidentiality, which is when clients have a right to confidentiality of their medical information. The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or the HIPAA law of 1996, ensures client confidentiality with regard to the release and electronic transmission of data. So this happened when we were in the psychiatric facility. So we were not immediately given the chart of our patient. And so we do not know what our patient's diagnosis is. And we basically was there and have a conversation with them to identify why they went in that facility from the beginning. And so the HIPAA law was ensures the confidentiality of each patient in that facility with a release in terms of their data. So information sometimes must be released in life-threatening situations without the patient's consent. So there are um, there are instances that the patient's life is in danger, and giving information to a healthcare provider may in a very unexpected scenario may happen, because not all the time man good, because even if we are um dealing, or we are honoring the law, if we're also dealing with the patient's lives and if it's at risk, then we may consider um the information to be given or to be released, even if the client doesn't give us the consent. So in the event of a specific threat, if it happens against an identified individual, the healthcare professional has a legal obligation to warn the intended victim of the client's threats of harm. So for example, if the patient has a need, or has a feeling of hurting other people, then the idea of having that information, or the confidentiality is not being held during that time, because it's already um, affecting other people and harming them, and that may cause harm, so it's a threat to other people. And so um, except in emergency situations, client information can be released only with the client's informed consent, which specifies information that can be released and the time frame for which the release is valid. So there are these law, for the HIPAA law ensures that the confidentiality of the patient is strongly withheld, is withhold, or is upheld, even if the patient has a psychiatric illness or diagnosis. So for the involuntary admission to those patients who is not in their will to get into the facility and get some help by professionals, involuntary admissions may be necessary when a person is mentally ill, is a danger to self or others, or is in need of mental health treatment or physical care. So there are three types of uh, admissions that are under involuntary. So possible the patient is really ill. The second one is the patient may harm others or himself, or even just the need for a treatment or physical care under a mental facility. The involuntary admission occurs when a person is admitted or detained involuntarily for mental health treatment because of actual or imminent danger to self or others. The person's condition is deteriorating or they require hospitalization. So there are many reasons why involuntary admission is given or happens to a facility, because a patient may be a danger. A patient may their mental health is deteriorating, or they are in need of hospitalization. So clients who are admitted involuntarily retains their right to informed consent. So um, they still have the right for informed consent even if they add in involuntary admission. So even if they do not want to be in that facility, they are still or they still have the rights to have informed consent. So they need to give their consent to the healthcare professionals who will be working with them in order to care for them. So clients retain the right to refuse treatments, including medications, unless a separate and specific treatment order is obtained from the court. So there are patients who doesn't want to give medications, and it's their right to refuse treatments or any medications given to them unless if the court or if ever that the significant other gives the authority to have it in a na, then that may happen. But unless, regardless, the client have the rights as patients to refuse treatments, including medications. Fifth is the clients lose the right to refuse treatment when they pose an immediate danger to self or others, requiring immediate actions by the interprofessional healthcare team. So they have the rights to refuse the treatment. So they have the rights, including medications. But then, if ever that they are harming other people, they're imposing danger to people, and they're not receiving these types of treatments, then interprofessional healthcare team may have or may take action to that patient because it's already harming other people and oneself. So it is not um it is not tolerable inside the facility or in any facility. Depending on the jurisdiction, an order from an external board, such as a court or from a psychiatrist or PHCP, is required for involuntary admissions, except in the case of emergency, which allows time to obtain the necessary order from the board. In the case of all involuntary admissions, legal counsel must be provided for the client. So in this situation, the client may be held for a 72-hour period until further evaluation is completed. So if there are circumstances that the patient is in need of an emergency, like for example, the patient is harming people, and so 3 days until evaluation is complete with that patient. So there are these patients or clients' rights. So we have the right to communicate with other people, even if they're inside the facility. They have the right to keep their personal belongings within them. They have the rights for religious freedom, especially with their religious activities. They are still able to do that inside the facility, or they have their rights. They also have the right to be employed if possible. So if they have a job, they still have the rights if possible. And they have the rights to manage and dispose of property if it's their own. The right to execute wills, especially if we're already dealing with end of life care. They have the rights to enter the contractual relationships, like for 6 months, they will be their nurses, they will be your psychotherapist, depends, because we have contractual relationships inside the facility as well. They also have the rights to make purchases. That's their right. They also have the right to education, the right to habeas corpus. They have the right to independent mental health examination. Now let's define habeas corpus. So they have the rights, a remedy by which a report can be made, which is unlawful detention or imprisonment. So if they have what we call as the false imprisonment, wherein there is no, or it is a involuntary admission, then they have the ability or they have the rights to um, file a report to the court. That's habeas corpus. You have the right to independent mental health examination. They have the right to civil service status, the right to retain licenses, privileges, or permits established by law, such as driver's or professional license, even inside the facility. They have the rights as patients. They have the right to sue or be sued. They have the right to marry and divorce. They have the right to be subject to unnecessary mechanical restraints. So they have their rights not to have mechanical restraints when they are a danger to their patients. They have their rights to be removed, but somehow this is it's a little bit complicated because most of the time, when the patient is not in control and is a danger or a threat to other people, then normally mechanical restraints are usually imposed to them. So we also have the right to periodic review of status, the right to legal representation like an attorney or a lawyer. They also have the right to for privacy inside the facility. They still have that right. They have the right to informed consent. So anything that is performed to them or that is um i- actions that are gonna given to them, they have the rights to know what the medical professionals are doing to them. And then they also have the right to treatment in the least restrictive setting. So as much as possible, restrictions are only imposed if the patient is not in its right state or if the patient is of danger to others. So after which is a hearing is held by an external board with a specific time now. So this is much more specific. So dependent, since this is US based, Saunders. So in most cases, a client can institute a hearing to seek an expedition judicial discharge, a writ of habeas corpus, which basically, when we researched it a while ago, it was about their rights to file a report to the court with unlawful detention or false imprisonment in the facility. So at the hearing, a determination is made as to whether the client may be released from the hospital or detained for further treatment and evaluation. So it has to go through court proceedings first to identify if the client will be released or will be detained further for treatment and evaluation or committed to a mental health facility for an undetermined time period. So it may have a specific time period or it may not have, depending on the client's situation and status, but it depends after that hearing when decision has been made by the court. So a client has a right to treatment in the least restrictive treatment environment. So if treatment objectives can be achieved by a court-ordered treatment to an outpatient facility as opposed to an inpatient facility, the client has the right to be treated in the outpatient setting. So basically, it says that um, a client have the rights for treatment in the least restrictive treatment environment. So if the treatment can be done in an outpatient setting, then the patient doesn't necessarily need to be in an inpatient facility, or they have the rights, or they are, if since we're talking about least restrictive, so the more um if it's possible to for it to be treated in an outpatient setting, then the outpatient patient, not inpatient facility, because least restrictive treatment environment man good ang we're talking about. So it's the least restrictive treatment environment. And the last one is the client is considered legally competent unless the client has been declared incompetent through a legal hearing separate from the involuntary commitment hearing. So we also have what we call as the patient is legally incompetent. So that is determined and a separate legal proceeding. Possible, meaning the patient in undergoing a hearing or a proceeding wherein the court will identify if they are legally competent to make decisions of their own. And if not, then someone under their family or the court itself will make a decision for the patient because the patient is illegally or is not legally competent enough to make decisions for their own. There's more.